Good morning, everyone. We are back at the NBA All-Star game off of the Super Bowl, but I got my MVP, the double B. Blaine Bartlett is in the house with Compassionate Capitalism right there with him. Blaine, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I survived the Super Bowl, and uh,
Yes.
and I wasn't there, so it was easy to survive.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing how things get easier the longer we do them. One of my favorite sayings, as you know, is if we learn to love what we don't love and we learn to love what we don't like, and we do it consistently without quitting, it tells us all its secrets. It gives us the cheat codes. It becomes really easy. I love to explore your experience with that, maybe some sayings that you have about how people who stick to it, going back to Napoleon Hill, Bob Proctor, and others that, combine a spiritual manifestation and laws of attraction with grit.
Yeah, yeah. Just in the context of sayings or little memes, that sort of thing. Years ago, when I was first starting out on this journey back in the '70s, there was a lot of stuff that kind of scared me. And I say scared in the sense it wasn't a saber-toothed tiger, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to do this. I am way out of my depth here. And one of my mentors at the time said, if you're stepping into a place that scares you, that's a sign that you need to take one more step.
Nice. Yeah.
And I've used that ever since because as soon as everything's predicated on movement. So as long as you're moving, you got a lot of flexibility. If you're paralyzed and stuck, you're paralyzed and stuck. And a lot of people in life seem to be successfully stuck.
Yeah. What about glamorized stuck? That, we're in a position where we're not consistent. So we have success, but it's that born on third base, think we hit a home run type of deal. And not only are we stuck, but everybody thinks that we have everything because we have what they want in a certain particular subject matter, topic, or expertise. For you, how do we get over that glamorized stuck when we do achieve more than we maybe as a child even thought was possible? But now we're in this glamorized stuck.
There's a distinction to be made between being successful and being fulfilled. And in my experience, the folks that are stuck on third base, like you're describing, they're born on third base. It's kind of like, I look around and all of the visible trappings of success seem to be in my life. But if I get quiet, if I really get quiet, I start noticing that there's something inside that's that wants to be expressed, that wants to actually do something, to be something. And until I can begin to listen to that voice, particularly if all the creature comforts are handled, I'm likely not going to move. It requires a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of dis-ease, if you will, to begin to move off of third base. And that's, I do a lot of work with family offices. And when we get into the third and fourth generations on some of these family offices that have got, $1 billion in assets, we run into this. It's kind of like, well, I've got everything I need. What else should I do? And that gets to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and the opposite is also true, is so many people are human doings, not human beings, and they don't get quiet. And so beyond the trappings, as you suggest, some people get so busy working, they forget to make money, they forget for their family, they forget their faith. But we're blessed to have the doctor in the house this morning. We are here with Dr. Eric Siegel, president of Prediction Impact out of San Francisco, working and adapting with us in these early hours in the West Coast. But he has a new book that is completely relevant today, Blaine. There's three things I'm teaching my kids. One, people skills, because I think that'll be a great differentiator in the future for them in business and life. I'm teaching them and encouraging them to read as much as possible so they can see the difference. I think that works out your muscle of real and fake, but also to explore, to be more interested than interesting in this AI world and the playbook to that. As you know, my podcast is called The Playbook. We're at over 1,500 episodes now, but his new book is the AI Playbook, Mastering the Rare Art of Machine Learning Deployment, utilizing AI as your servant, not your master. Welcome, Dr. Eric Siegel.
Indeed, it's your servant, not your master. Thanks for having me, David, and for plugging the book. Yeah, I'm quite interested in making this topic area accessible and concrete. There's a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, and maybe a lot of that's warranted, maybe 20 to 40% of the excitement. But right now the hype is a little over the top. The antidote, though, to hype is to focus on concrete value. How is your organization going to benefit from machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it?
And when we're looking at that, I right now have hired an AI consultant such as yourself to look at the capabilities of each one of our employees and look at each one of the capabilities of the software and even the virtual assistants that we have, and give us an idea on what actually works today that makes us more productive, accessible, and gracious with our time. How would you, as you're looking at machine learning and looking at the end-to-end mastery of what we're doing by utilizing AI as our servant, how would you explore or recommend others who have businesses to explore today's value quantitatively within their organization of how to utilize AI?
Well, the main thing I'd say is let's pivot from generative AI, where all the attention is right now. Often the best thing to do is to pivot back to the original, which is now kind of called predictive AI, to differentiate from generative. The established use cases of machine learning are to predict for each individual, customer, client, satellite that might run out of a battery, vehicle that might break down, transaction that might be fraudulent, in order to improve operations. If you want to improve pretty much any of your main large-scale operations, it's predictive AI or predictive analytics, those types of predictive use cases of machine learning, whether the individual will click, buy, lie, or die, to improve targeting of marketing, fraud detection, financial credit risk management. All large-scale operations consist of many individual decisions, and prediction is the holy grail to drive each individual decision. Prediction is what you get from data. It's the most actionable insight. It's the holy grail for driving those decisions. Data is experience from which to learn, and what you can learn is to predict. So that's the definition of machine learning: learn from data to predict. In fact, it's the same core technology that drives generative AI, such as large language models, such as ChatGPT, which is amazing. It's predicting what should the next word be, actually token, but on that level of detail, in order to write one word at a time. That could be very useful for first drafts. There must be a human in the loop. You've got to review it's not going to be autonomous, right? You're not going to fully trust it like you would a human. You can't. It's very seemingly human-like. So we need to temper our excitement, even though it is potentially very valuable. Use it wisely. Use it in a way that helps human performance. We're having a little echo there. But check out predictive. It's older, but not old school. That's the established. That's where the established track record. That's where there's more resources invested. There's more proven returns, and that's where you stand to improve your existing large scale operations.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. Sorry, Blaine. I was trying to register back in there, and it gave him a loop of echoing. So I apologize. Go ahead, Blaine.
Got it. Yeah. The idea of predictive and generative AI strikes me as, some of the research I've done, a lot of the research I've done actually suggests that, human beings are pattern recognition machines. I mean, that's kind of how we navigate, life, as we begin to build roadmaps in our mind that are legacy developed, and we call it mindset, typically beliefs, values, all that kind of stuff. So, we recognize patterns, speech patterns, color patterns, those sorts of things. So if I'm understanding just the nature of AI in the broadest sense here, essentially what we're talking about, and you talk about this in terms of data and how it's, synthesized and then actually worked with. It's basically pattern recognition on a grand scale. Would that be a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the parallels between what humans can do and the kinds of things we're getting machines to do are kind of helpful. It's metaphors, right? We speak in metaphors, and we use the word machine learning for good reason, because what it's capable of doing is ascertaining those patterns or formulas from those historical examples where you already know what the outcome was. Those are cases from which to learn. It's literally called the training data. That's what data scientists call it. The machine learning software learns from that, and the ability to ascertain patterns and formulas that hold over new, unforeseen cases, unique individual situations that have never before been encountered. That means that, in a sense, in a very well-defined sense, it's literally learned from the data. And to be value focused, and I always want to get back to that, what's it learned to do? It's learned to predict. Prediction is what you get from machine learning. That's why it's also called predictive AI or predictive analytics, those established enterprise machine learning use cases.
Great. And what should we be looking for? Obviously, the AI itself is creating a even more expedient usage of its own self, meaning it works upon itself, and AI is helping us develop things so much quicker, whether it's for disease, in vaccines, or whether it's in business processes. What should we be looking for because of the extremely fast nature of development that is created by machine-to-machine learning?
Well, my message is not to be too worried. When we're talking about these real practical enterprise use cases, the core technology is evolving, it is improving, but the bigger deal, the main missing ingredient, is more of a cultural or organizational change, which is that right now the focus is on the number crunching and we're fetishizing it, and for good reason. Everything I just described about learning from data to predict, I think it's the coolest kind of science. That's why I, and probably most data scientists got into in the first place. I've been in the field of machine learning for 30 years. But just because the number crunching is good doesn't mean it's valuable. It doesn't generate that is to say, it doesn't capture or realize value unless you act on it, unless you implement those predictive models, integrate them, deploy them, operationalize them, change existing large-scale operations. And change is painful. It takes an organizational practice. That's what I've put together in this book. It's a 6-step practice I call BizML, the business practice for running machine learning projects. And that's the main missing ingredient. Most new machine learning projects actually fail to deliver value because they fail to deploy entirely. So connecting end to end, getting deep collaboration between business side and the data scientists, between the quants, and the business professionals, that's the missing ingredient. And that deep collaboration that's informed by semi-technical understanding, following an understood paradigm, playbook, process, methodology, that's what's going to get you there and allow for get the organization to embrace change, because it's not just the number crunching, it's an organizational operations improvement project. You need to see it as a business project that involves business change.
Amazing. Blaine, anything to follow up with?
Well, the idea of change, the problem with change in most organizations isn't the change itself, it's the disruption to existing relationships that the change causes. And when you're trying to, bring these predictive models together, people have got, and I'm thinking here of a SAP project or something like that, where you're changing the nature of work processes based on predictive models about that suggest if we do this, we're going to get better results. But people have got entrenched ways of behaving with their jobs, their relationship with their job, their relationship with their work process. And this may be out of your wheelhouse just a little bit here, but how do you actually facilitate that shift where people begin to go, oh, not only does this make business sense, but I can see how this actually will benefit me.
You've got to align incentives. And one of the main flagship examples in my book is UPS improving and optimizing by changing the way they deliver 16 million packages a day, and they do it more efficiently. This is an established company, more than 100 years old, set in its ways. And the only way they got the change, for example, to get the staff members working on the loading dock, putting the packages into the trucks, was to align incentives, set leading indicators rather than the lagging indicators in a scorecard that they were incentivized and they were participating in, to get them to change and comply with newly prescribed behaviors based on optimization. In particular, it was by predicting. It all comes to prediction. That's the value. Predicting where you're going to have deliveries tomorrow, and to augment the known deliveries so that you can better plan from a larger perspective exactly how to assign all the packages to the trucks so that things happen more optimally during tomorrow's driving. And the win was incredible in combination with prescribed driving. This system at UPS saves 185 million miles of driving a year, $350 million, and 185,000 metric tons of emissions. So I think that what you just said, Blaine, is such an amazing point about, hey, it's not just that change is painful, but more specifically, the relationships between humans have to change. Yes, yes, yes. But my message before that is even more fundamental, and it's this simple. You got to take it on as a change management project. That's the missing thing, is just recognizing that it's change management. Again, we're fetishizing, focused on this core technology, whether these models that predict whether you'll click, buy, lie, or die. But predicting those things is only useful if you act on it, get it operationalized. In today's world, it's like we're more excited about the rocket science than the launch of the rocket. Having an end-to-end practice so that you're focused from the get-go in reverse planning on what that deployment will entail and get everybody on the same page, and then recognize, yes, it's an operations improvement project. So simply the problem, in a sense, is people don't conceive of these projects as needing change management. They think this is the best of technology, that technology is intrinsically valuable. No. It's the best of technology, but it's not intrinsically valuable. It's only useful if you act on it, if you implement it, deploy it. That's change. Let's recognize that we do have to take on the discipline of change management for these projects to actually realize value.
And finally, Eric, based off of all the different cultural changes that are occurring and the usage of predictive analysis by machine learning, do you think it increases the fear or decreases the fear? Obviously, with generative AI, it increases fear because people see the replacement or supplementary capability. It seems that there's more of an enhancement that's created through the predictive analysis, and it would reduce fear. Is that correct?
Well, there's always fear of change. There's no getting away from that, but there's also no getting away from the need for change and evolution. And when it comes down to it, your competitors doing it. So, I mean, improving, optimizing, streamlining large-scale operations with the predictions you get from data, otherwise known as using machine learning, is one of the last remaining points of differentiation, where these things are all kind of coming commoditized, and large-scale enterprise operations are so similar from one organization to the other. So again, last remaining point of differentiation, critical way of making more intelligent decision-making across hundreds of thousands or millions of decisions. And the holy grail for that is prediction. You can't get away from sort of needing to tackle that change. But I think also when you go into the generative side and you have these language models that are so seemingly human-like, that most of the fear there is actually unwarranted. Now, look, computers are machines that automate. Any machine is meant to automate. So any progress with any kind of machine is going to be disruptive, at least a little bit, to the workforce. And that's economics. Things do have to shift. But the hype is telling us that these things are not just seemingly human-like, but quickly developing towards general human-level capability. I believe that's a false narrative. I think we need to hold two thoughts in our heads at the same time. This is incredible, never before seen kind of capabilities that are seemingly human-like and potentially quite useful for writing first drafts. But that doesn't mean that it's inching its way towards general human-level capabilities. Let's not take for granted what we're capable of as humans. Computers are not going to wholesale replace. You can't onboard them and you're not going to be able to anytime soon or onboard them like a human employee and let them rip autonomously. So that's sort of the irony, is that it's more seemingly human-like, and yet for the tasks you would use generative AI, it's actually less potentially autonomous. You've got to have the human in the loop reviewing everything that it generates.
Yeah, if we would have succumbed to the fear of progress way back when they tried to pass laws about looms and not having our first computers created with the loom, we'd be far behind where we are today. So, and then I always use the hammer analogy. Hammer is a technology that can build a house or break it down, depending on the person that's utilizing the hammer. So I'm trying to bring as many experts into our space with the AI playbook that shows us and illustrates us the power of using AI to build a house, not break it down. Dr. Eric Siegel, come back and join us. We have many other platforms. Everybody, if you're not looking into, paying attention and giving intention to AI, you're going to fall farther and farther behind in your capabilities. I would check out Dr. Eric Siegel's new book, The AI Playbook. Can't hold it up there so we can recognize it, and we show that at the airports as well through Reach TV. Mastering the rare art of machine learning deployment, creating a culture around it, and empowering others to empower others with it. The AI Playbook. Dr. Eric Siegel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Blaine. Great to meet you, Blaine.
You bet. You take care.
We'll see you
Have
soon.
a good rest of your week.
Yeah, you too.
We need more. We need more of that, Blaine. That's for sure. People out there explaining and to create that. Have you started utilizing AI? I know you're a world business consultant with some of the biggest companies in the world. How have you integrated AI into what you're doing around the world?
It's been very minimal, quite honestly. Mostly it's just automating back office stuff. Predicting. I mean, just in the context of predictive analysis here, gaps in schedules and just different things like that. But I'm not really doing a lot with it outside of just, like I said, some just basic back office administration sort of details and tasks.
Yeah, and for you, have you seen any? Because I know you with culture and collaboration and coordination and building momentum in those big organizations. Have you dealt with it on the cultural side of things? I know you are the king of getting people productive and engaged. Have there been any issues that have arisen as you're that type of consultant as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's the one that I alluded to, and when I asked that question of Eric, was the disruption to relationships that the change causes, because when some of these large systems begin to deploy some of these machine learning tools, the idea and the intent from a business case perspective is differentiation. That's one piece of it, but also streamlining. And the streamlining lends itself to an increase in productivity, ideally, those sorts of things, all of which begins to disrupt existing work practices and processes. And people have got affinities towards the way that they do things. And if we're not paying attention to that part of it, which a lot of companies don't, they think the business case argument will carry the day, and it seldom does carry the day in and of itself. You've got to have another conversation. What does this make possible for you as an individual if we're successful in doing this? That begins to bring it back home to where people can go, oh, there's a win in this for me. It's not trying to replace me. I see how I get to benefit, sort of a thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And now Craig Muir has a question for us, which is, what's your thoughts on AI and IP theft? And I have a particularly different perspective when it comes to protecting your AI and IP. I think a lot of startups, small businesses spend far too much time, energy on protecting. They should have one layer of protection, but they shouldn't make it their primary objective to protect too early. And the reason is that there's so much to steal out there, or from others that don't have any. So one layer of protection in cybersecurity, one layer of protection in your personal finances, it's enough of a deterrent that they don't want to waste their time because there's another 1,000 people that have no protection at all. And I see a lot of small businesses make the mistake. They spend a lot on AI and IP protection when they don't have enough audience where anyone, number one, would want to steal anything from them, because nobody wants to steal an unsuccessful IP or AI thing. And two, they also, even if someone was particularly enamored by what they've created early on with no audience, marketplace, or community, at one layer, there's so many people that are unprotected. One protection is enough to deter everyone. And so kind of in that broken window theory of criminal justice, it applies as well to IP and to AI protection. Craig, if you can kind of look into that as well. I see a lot of small businesses as well, Blaine, way too much time on, logos and, operating agreements. Where are some areas that you would help a small business where you see them wasting far too much time too early?
Well, yeah, I think, and Craig, I appreciate the question here. David, you're back at the All-Star game right now. And just metaphorically, if you think about, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor in his, his college days, but the sky hook, now you could say the sky hook was his IP. What matters isn't the IP itself. It's, does somebody know how to actually leverage and utilize that IP in a unique sort of a way? Typically, the inventor of the IP has got a unique take on that IP itself. So if somebody, I make most of my IP. It's I don't have firewalls or any of that other stuff. If somebody is enamored enough by it, they want to take and run with it. Knock yourself out. And know that I'm the one that developed it. I know how to use it. I know how to, to tweak it. I know how to. So the value proposition isn't in the IP. It's in how it gets utilized, deployed, married into other things. All of that stuff kind of comes together. There's a secret sauce to it, but the ingredient by itself isn't the secret sauce. So to your point, you're going to want to mitigate, your exposure to risk. I lock my car. And to your point, if somebody's passing by and they're intent on doing something, and the car door doesn't open, they're going to go, okay, fine, next, because there's going to be one out there that isn't locked. So that's sort of a thing. Yeah. I've got finite resources, money being one of them. So how do I use them? Protection is one thing, and it comes from a mindset of scarcity. I want to have an abundant mindset.
Yeah, it's amazing, that abundant mindset. There's foundations like St. Jude Hospital in one of the most scarce industries, where everybody's hiding their IP for the development of a cure of cancer, for example, where the one reason I love St. Jude and the foundation, the charity of St. Jude, is that they immediately post up to every private company, every public company in the world, all of their research and findings, so that we can cure cancer, not worried about making money and hiding and protecting their IP. And I feel the same way. It's like, if you can do better with my ideas, God bless you. My mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, to make money, help people, and have fun. And I sat backstage. One of my favorite lessons, I was with Colleen, who the president of my company, Blaine, and I sat backstage as the closing keynote, and one of my mentees for years, who actually was before me speaking, and as I'm sitting backstage, he's rambling off, be more interested than interesting, be kind to your future self, and do good deeds. And and Colleen is very protective of me, as well as my wife, right? They're like, oh my God, and just so angry and furious, and like, I can't believe he stole your speech and your ideas. And first of all, I know where my ideas come through me, not from me. But I tapped her on the shoulder. I said, breathe. I said, my mission is to empower others, and if he knows those ideas well enough to articulate the quantitative value and inspire people with being more interested than interesting, or being kind to your future self, then I'm okay. And he's actually complimenting me with that.
Yeah.
All right, we have the incredible Ben Fraser in the green room. He's the Chief Investment Officer of Aspen Funds, and he is here to talk about Aspen Funds. Welcome to Office Hours, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me, David. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for joining us. I like to bring people on that understand money, understand raising money, understand investing money. And there's the nice thing about money is it's a quantitative species, meaning, when you people personally have underwritten $125 million in CNI and CRE loans, you have someone that has a lot of situational knowledge and is paid a lot of dummy tax to host and to support people so that they can get the best use out of investment in the use of those funds. You have a great podcast called the Invest Like a Billionaire podcast. What are some of the things people do that really are not aligned with their timing and risk tolerance, or not aligned with where they want to be or better when it comes to funding their projects?
Yeah, great question. So, a little bit of my backstory. You kind of mentioned it. So, I used to be a commercial banker, underwriter. Did a lot in kind of commercial real estate as well as business loans. Did some small, medium-sized business acquisitions, and was a really great learning experience. Got to see kind of behind the scenes of very wealthy borrowers at the bank, and so this is kind of a boutique business bank. And got to look at the personal financial statements, tax returns, everything under the hood of these very wealthy individuals, and really was able to see some common denominators. And two of them that kind of stood out to me at that point were most of them were business owners, and a lot of them invested in real estate. And so it kind of just some light bulb moments for me early on. And then I made a transition into the private equity side of the world, kind of left banking and now work with a lot of bankers on the other side of it. But yeah, our podcast, Invest Like a Billionaire, our goal is really to study what are the ultra wealthy investors doing that the retail, or what I call everyday millionaires, aren't necessarily doing. And so that's really been the passion of discovery in that podcast, and trying to pull out nuggets that we can kind of apply at a maybe smaller scale, if you're not a billionaire yet. So, for me, it's, you kind of mentioned a little bit, but a lot of it is mindset. And if I was going to distill, what is one of the biggest differences, aside from very tactical things, but the first is taking ownership of your money, right? And what I've found is people work so hard and spend so much time in education, going to college, taking courses, doing additional continuous learning to create more income. But then they, for some reason, spend almost zero time thinking about how to multiply what they have, how to use the resources they have to create leverage and to increase their asset base. And usually was blindly hand the keys over to someone that they think has their best interest in mind. And that's not always a bad thing, but if the mentality is, I'm just going to hand it over here and let someone else figure it out, I think you're missing a huge piece of acceleration and momentum and wealth building.
It strikes me, and I do a lot of work with family offices, usually in excess of $1 billion in assets, that sort of thing. And the notion that most people have, I think, and I'm going to just check this out with you, Ben, is that money is a transactional currency, and it's traded for something. So there's a finite sort of a thing that comes with it. In these family offices and the folks that I'm working with, and you mentioned mindset, they seem to approach it from a very different perspective. Money is energy, and it's something that can fuel something else. It's not a transaction per se. They use it as an energetic conduit to creating something else. And that's my language for it. But does that seem to match what you're discovering in the folks that you talk to in your billionaire podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way to think about it. And, To me, it comes back to another big mindset, which is the abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, right? And I think so much of the time we're taught to think of this is, all the amount that I can earn in this salary, or this is as much as I can. I have to spend 40 years to build enough in retirement in my 401k to hopefully have enough to live off of the rest of my life. And part of it is the skills that you learn, the tools that you can create leverage with. Like, as I've continued to grow my career and my ability to generate wealth, like, it's remarkable to me. It's not that complicated, right? I mean, it's, to your point, it's where can you find value? Where can you create a asymmetric investment of time, energy, and resource for the outcome, which is multiples of that investment in it? And I think that's the mentality that a lot of these ultra wealthy use is, like you said, money is energy, money is a resource, and I want to get a return on that resource. When I was studying finance in college, you learn the principles of capital allocation. And the idea is, in any efficient market, money flows to the areas where the belief that it can produce the best return, the best risk-adjusted return. And that's just the natural state. Money's going to flow to where it's going to get its best use. And I think we can apply that in our own lives too, personally, where, am I being a good steward of what I have? Do I have the skills and resources and leverage points to create multiplication?
Yeah, it's amazing. Our mentor, Blaine and mine, Bob Proctor, used to always tell me you could drop all the money in the world in the middle of the desert. It would redistribute itself to the exact same people in the exact same amounts. And I firmly believe that. Ben, we will have you back on. We need more of you. We need more of your insights. I want to talk about perceived value. I want to talk about timing tolerance. We have to get on to the NBA All-Star game today. So a little bit short on time. We appreciate you showing as well. We have other shows, Blaine and I both, TV shows, podcasts, and this show. If you don't mind, we'd love to have you back. Does that sound fair?
Would love it. Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Awesome. The incredible Ben Fraser. Check him out, the CIO of Aspen Funds. Money is an energy. He's going to teach you how to attract it and then utilize it. The only thing that limits you with money is your own self-image. So you need a partner who's been around the block. Ben Fraser, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ben.
Awesome. All right. We have to run, and what is it, run and gun or run and show? I feel like the Lakers right now. So it's showtime.
It's showtime. Go dribble. Go dribble.
Writer. She's an amazing songwriter. We'll have her on tomorrow or the next day. So I know our schedules got discombobulated for whatever reason. I'm going to personally call each and every one of them to see exactly what happened. So I appreciate your patience, as technology and time are our friends, but I had to leave enough time. Blaine, what's your takeaway for the day?
I think just, I'm going to go back to Eric's major point around predictability. We are pattern recognition mavens. I mean, we recognize patterns. So, and where I'm going with that is, the takeaway is, the more I can become aware of what are the patterns that are running in my life, the more choices I have about how I run my life. So it's not running me, I actually run it. So that's the takeaway today. Recognize the patterns that are in play in your life.
And mine is, the cheat code, the learning process of, the mathematical formula of luck. It's amazing when we show intention for a consistent amount of time without the results that we want, how easy things get. And I was thinking of all the different people we've had on today, as well as just being at the Super Bowl so many years, that I saw so much dis-ease and frustration and anxiety and all the things that I was blessed to experience over the last 35 years at these big events. And now understanding the subtleties of success, the objective I have, not wasting the energy, the time, the emotion, and the value. But that takes time, energy, emotion, and value to figure out how not to waste time, emotion, money, and value. And so, I think we see that with AI in the cultural aspect as well as the application. We see it as well in finance, in the Billionaires podcast as well. And, you know, of course, as we move forward and bring other people on from our experience of so many different clients, we see the exact same formula to success, fulfillment, passion, purpose, and profitability. You can have it all if you learn here on Office Hours from the incredible Blaine Bartlett. Go to blainebartlett.com. He's my mentor. He should be yours. I promise you, quantitatively, he is the best investment that you can make in your personal and professional life. Blaine, I will see you soon. We got a little different unstoppable tonight here at the NBA All-Star Game, and we are on the road tour, the road show. We're running and gunning, as you said earlier. Once again, thank you for your patience. Rocky was waiting in the green room to come on, but I got to get to the Pacers and Puma to that studio in the 17 minutes. So I am going to run and gun. Thank you, Blaine, for joining us.
You bet, buddy. Take care. Have a great time.
You got it. Thank you. All right, everyone. Speaking of running and gunning, we will be doing a meetup today in Indianapolis at the Indy Hotel. Email me, david@email.com. We have a VIP dinner tonight with Dominique Wilkins, with Meta World Peace, with Darren Prince, so many other people. And we are on the road show. We are at SoFi next week. Then we are in Chicago, New York City, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. So, and then Vegas. So if you are in any of those cities, join us, david@dmail.com, or our text community, 949-298-2905. And you can join us there. Be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you later.